Hi, Lily. You look fabulous today. Have I told you that yet? You ready? Hello, best friends, and welcome back to our safe, cozy space of the big wide internet. I am so happy to see you. Lily is so happy to see you, and we hope your week is just going fabulous so far. Also, welcome back to Come Scroll With Me, or if you're new here, then hi, my name is Liz and this is Lily, and as she makes perfectly clear in every video, we are just side characters in her world because she is the main character. So you guessed it, today we are headed back to r/Am I the Asshole? For those of you who are unfamiliar, Am I the Asshole is a subreddit on Reddit where people give their side of a story where they might have originally thought they were in the right, but now maybe they're second guessing themselves. And so they turn to strangers on the internet to help them decide, am I the asshole? And then the strangers vote. I will pop the voting system just up here. Just a precursor, as I have said in the past, I'm usually not on board with just judging people in day-to-day life. Usually, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're not hurting anyone, you do you, boo. But in this very specific scenario, these people are asking us to judge them and give our opinion. So really, I feel like we're just doing them a solid. You know? So yes, this is our third visit here, not that I'm counting, but we are keeping it fresh and we are doing that by giving today's video a theme, and that theme is weddings. There are way too many posts on Am I the Asshole revolving around weddings, and honestly, they're usually the most jaw-dropping and dramatic because I guess nothing brings out both the best and worst in people like a wedding. But with all of that said, let's jump straight into our first post. We have, am I the asshole for making my mum choose between my wedding and my sister's first childbirth? Basically the title, I'm getting married in 2 months' time after a year of planning and everything has been going to plan so far with no hiccups. Congratulations, OP. So glad the plan is going smoothly for you. That was until my mother called me earlier in the week to ask me to postpone my wedding by at least a month. My sister is currently pregnant and her due date is July 17th. My sister asked my mother to be there for the whole of July since the due date is just an estimate and this is her first baby. Long story short, the father of her child is my ex-boyfriend whom she was sleeping with while we were dating. So we don't have a relationship with one another. Okay, so this all took a turn that I did not expect. This all sounds very messy. I'm not willing to postpone my wedding for my sister, and I told my mother that, and also that she just simply needed to choose who she wanted to support. She's been fence sitting, and that's why we're here. She says I'm forcing her to make an impossible decision, and my aunts are also trying to convince me to postpone. Oh man, your phone must be blowing up, OP. Don't get me wrong, I know she's also mum's child and wants her there for her, but I also want her there for me, and I've already waited a year for this and everything is already planned. Am I the asshole? There is an edit. Lol, not me forgetting I even made this post. Thanks for all the comments. Some of y'all are too petty and funny. Posting my mother-in-law, toxic, but I love it. Okay, so it looks like this is OP responding to some of the comments of people saying that her future mother-in-law will hopefully step up and fill her actual mother's shoes at the wedding and essentially take her place in photos and everything. My mum and I also have a not so great relationship due to her fence sitting, and my wedding was supposed to be when we tried mending things, but hey, what can we do? I'm fine and just excited to get married. Well, that's good, at least. Oh, and since some were asking, my wedding is the weekend before her due date, and I might post an update with pictures if that's allowed. Okay, so I have some different conflicting thoughts on this one. Firstly, Reddit voted not the asshole, and I mostly agree, I guess. I kind of mostly feel sorry for everyone involved though, except your sister, because I don't know enough about how everything went down, but just going by the information that you've given us, it sounds like a horrendous thing to do on her part. I feel terrible for you, OP, that you potentially won't have your mum there at your wedding day. That's heartbreaking, and I hope you do have a good relationship with your mother-in-law and that she is able to step up on your wedding day, not in a toxic way, but to kind of lessen the blow if your mum isn't there on the day. But I do also feel terrible for your mum because she's basically been put in this impossible situation of choosing between her two daughters. And I can't really blame her for fence sitting. It might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think she's in the wrong for not allowing your sister's cheating to determine her decision, because I just think being a parent and holding your child's mistakes over their head is just a really toxic thing to do. But I don't think she should have pressured you in any way to change the date of your wedding, especially when it's only 2 months away. In the end, I'm just really sorry that you're in this situation, OP, and I have no vote. I'm joining your mum and sitting on the fence because I just have too many different feelings regarding this post. I'm sorry. Moving on though, we have, am I the asshole for dropping out of my cousin's wedding party after a prank? Throwaway, which means OP has made this post using a temporary account rather than their main account. So OP is a 26-year-old female, and she says, my cousin, who is a 29-year-old female, got engaged a few months ago and asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was so excited to accept. Yay! Her sister, female 32, is the maid of honor, and there are 3 other bridesmaids. The date is set for April 2024. On April 1st of this year, she sent a PDF to the bridesmaid group chat that really made me angry. It was a list of wedding party responsibilities, rules, and regulations. It included a picture of the bridesmaid dresses that we'd be wearing. They were hideous. And she told us that we'd have to pay $800 for them and that they only went up to a size 8. So anyone bigger than that would have to lose weight before the wedding. That made me so angry because I wear a size 10, but also she's like a size 12. So even fatter than me. Firstly, whoa, OP, but also what kind of company only makes dresses that go up to a size 8? Other ridiculous things she added, none of us were allowed to be tanner than her for the wedding. So she told us that none of us could spend significant time in the sun for the next year. She wanted to have longer hair than all of her bridesmaids, so she said we'd all have to cut our hair to our shoulders or shorter. She wanted to do a I always struggle with this word, choreographed dance with all of us and insisted that we go to 3-hour dance classes with her every Sunday until the wedding, a year away. She said she wanted her bachelorette party to be in Paris and that we would all need to chip in $3,000. There was more, but I was so angry I stopped reading and muted the group chat for a few hours. Okay, so I'm sure most of you have already caught on, but for any of you who missed it, going by the fact that this email was sent on April 1st and that all of these rules were over the top ridiculous, I feel like this is an April Fool's prank and OP hasn't caught on. She's taken this whole thing very seriously, and honestly, if I thought all of these rules were serious, I would have been pretty annoyed too. I was so livid and hurt that I decided to drop out of the wedding party, but I didn't say anything right away. Oh no. The next day, I checked the group chat again and everyone else had been chatting about how funny the bride's prank was. Apparently, at the bottom of the PDF, it said April Fools, but I hadn't read that far because I was so mad. Everyone else thought it was hilarious, but it still rubbed me the wrong way. I reached out to the bride to tell her how much this hurt my feelings, and she did apologize. But even though it's been almost 2 months, I'm still really angry. I decided this week I no longer want to be a bridesmaid because of the mean-spirited prank and told my cousin. Now she's really hurt and angry, and the maid of honor, other bridesmaids, and some of my family members are blowing up my phone saying I'm overreacting to an innocent prank. But I believe pranks are only funny if the recipient finds them funny, and I definitely didn't. So, am I the asshole? Okay, so OP, Reddit voted you the asshole on this one, and I'm really sorry, but I have to very softly agree here. I feel really bad though, because even though I do believe that the prank was harmless, it wasn't mean-spirited, it obviously had a big impact on you, especially for you to still be this angry 2 months later. And that makes me feel terrible. I'm sorry that you went through that. It sounds really sucky. OP did add an edit. Okay, clearly I've been deemed the asshole and I'll accept that. But I also realized that I didn't explain my feelings very well. I was angry because all of the items on the list seemed to single me out. Expensive dress and bachelorette. I make the least money out of everyone in the wedding party and it felt like a jab. The sizing, same thing. Only me and 2 other bridesmaids are bigger than a size 8. The hair, we all have long hair, but I have the longest hair out of anyone in the wedding party. The tanning, I work outdoors, so I'm probably the one most likely to be tan. Everything I read on the list felt tailored to me. Okay, so as I was reading the list, I kind of assumed that the bride had found it online or on Google and thought it would be funny to send it out, and she just copied and pasted it. But it's very clear that OP felt singled out and like it was a personal attack. But OP, I do need to ask, did you even consider if anyone on the bridal party knows how much you make? And you said only you and 2 of the other bridesmaids are above a size 8, but that's over half of the bridal parties. So I'm not sure how you felt that was singling you out. Honestly, it feels like maybe there's some potential self-esteem issues going on that had you actively looking through the list for ways that it was targeted at you. But in the end, I'm sorry this prank made you feel the way that you did and that you felt you had to pull out of the wedding party. Next, we have, am I the asshole for upstaging my sister-in-law at my wedding? I don't believe I am in the wrong here, but maybe I'm just stupid. English isn't my first language, so sorry if some things will sound funny to you. So OP is a 25-year-old female, and she says, so recently I married my fiance, who is a 27-year-old male. Congratulations, OP. Our wedding was absolutely beautiful and how I always imagined it, except for one issue. My older brother, 28-year-old male, married his wife, 28-year-old female, 2 years ago. Their wedding was beautiful, but my sister-in-law couldn't afford her dream dress because it was too expensive. It was a designer dress and had to settle for the cheaper option. I, on the other hand, never wanted a wedding dress. I hate how I feel in dresses, and when I was 10, no family members could make me wear one. So instead of a wedding dress, I decided to wear white flared pants with ruffles, similar to one of ABBA's jumpsuits. On the top, I wore a loose white satin top with golden corset. I also had some golden jewelry, my wedding ring, of course, necklace, and some hair jewelry that just complemented my blonde curly hair. This sounds absolutely stunning, OP. Like, I love the white classic wedding dress, but sometimes it does feel a bit restrictive, especially when you look at what brides wear in all different cultures and traditions in the world. And so I find it so exciting when brides go a different route and wear something completely different. I in no way could afford it normally, and so I started to put some money away every time I had my paycheck for a tailor to make my dream outfit and to buy jewelry. Now to the main story. When the wedding came, I saw that my sister-in-law was wearing a very, very pale, almost white pink dress that looked exactly like the wedding dress she always wanted, just not pure white. Ooh. She also had jewelry that her grandma gave her. I had no problem with her jewelry. I and my now husband confronted my sister-in-law and my brother about this. She said she decided to do the same as me and started to save money for a tailor to make the dress she always wanted. And my wedding was the perfect time to wear it since I don't care about dresses. But shouldn't the time that she started planning and saving money for this dress have been for her wedding? My brother agreed with her. Everyone from my family knew that I wouldn't be wearing a wedding dress, but in no way would I think that someone would think it's okay to wear one on my wedding. It's true, I don't care about dresses, but I still wanted to be the most beautiful woman on this day. My mother joined the conversation. She also agreed with sister-in-law. She never agreed with me not dressing feminine. Sister-in-law started crying that I tried to upstage her with my expensive jewelry since all she had is old ones from her grandmother. I had said nothing about the jewelry and that I won't let her have her dream day with this beautiful outfit she always wanted. This is also backwards. Your sister-in-law accused you of upstaging her and wanted to have her dream day at your wedding. And how ungrateful to call the jewelry that her grandmother was kind enough to gift her old. After all this, I started crying too, and my husband had to comfort me. Some of the guests, mostly my friends, were on my side, but most family members said I was exaggerating. I tried to ignore her for the rest of the wedding, but she was still at the back of my mind. My mother and brother said I should apologize to my sister-in-law. I don't want to do it. I'm still hurt, but maybe I am really in the wrong. Do my feelings not count? I'm writing this while on honeymoon in Vietnam with my husband and trying to ignore all messages from my family. Am I the asshole? No, OP, it's been decided. Reddit voted. You are not the asshole, and I totally agree. There's a few edits as well. I have a minute to answer some questions. I'm really grateful for all your answers. They made me realize I'm the sane one here. I might not be able to answer every question, though I will try. No, my brother is not a golden child. My parents always treated us equally, but it's true he was the one that got better grades, better looks, and was more athletic. But I never felt worse than him. We were both very much loved. My mother never felt good with me not wanting to wear a skirt or dress. Every time we would go to a more elegant place or I would go on a date, she said I should stop acting childish and start dressing like a real woman. I think this situation at my wedding exploded because of my own earlier words. My whole life I said, against my mother, that everyone should dress in what makes them comfortable and not look at what others think. I believe they used my words against me. I think you might be onto something here, OP, and it feels incredibly toxic. It feels like everyone around you brought their own issues to the table and you were the one that copped the fallout. I always had a good relationship with my sister-in-law. We were, I could say, not close friends. She makes my brother happy. Why would I not like her? We also sometimes joke around. I don't know what made her do this. Maybe she thought we were closer. You are right. Everyone can feel beautiful at a wedding. I used the wrong words. I'm sorry for this. After I come back with my husband, I will try to keep distance with my family, but I don't want to lose all contact. So, I mean, the argument could be made that it's gotten to the point where there's so many rules regarding weddings that it's almost gotten to the point where it's almost too easy to make an accidental faux pas. Like, how much money do I spend on a gift? Do I sit on the groom side or the bride side? But on the flip side, I do feel like there are some rules that are so universally well known that they don't even need to be said. And one of those rules is don't wear a wedding dress unless you are the actual bride. And if OP's sister-in-law had time to plan and save for this dress, then she definitely had time to double check with OP that she would be okay with her wearing it to her wedding. Moving on, we have, am I the asshole for telling one of my good friends I wouldn't attend his wedding because my wife wasn't invited? Main issue, my best friend from college, 26-year-old male, and I, 25-year-old male, are both having weddings this year. His in June, mine in November. Congratulations to you and your bestie, OP. Mine is really more of just a party because I married my wife at the courthouse about a year ago because we didn't want to wait until we could afford the party to commit to each other. He invited me to his wedding, but not my wife. I waited until his deadline for RSVPs and then told him I wouldn't attend because my wife and I go to events together, or we don't go because she is the woman behind me as I am the man behind her, and we are effectively a unit. I know I shouldn't have waited, but I wanted to try and push off an uncomfortable conversation. He blew up on me and accused me of always choosing others over him and not being a decent friend or caring about him at all. He said he didn't invite my wife because there physically wasn't enough space at the venue and that I wasn't the only one affected by this. He went on to essentially say that I needed to not be codependent and that he wasn't asking me to go on a 6-month deployment from my family, but that I needed to be there for him to be a good friend. Geez, from this reaction from your best friend, it seems like either he is trying to guilt and manipulate you into changing your mind, or there's some serious history that we're not aware of yet. I eventually caved because he made me feel bad and said I'd go without my wife, also after talking about it with my wife. But my thought now is if you plan a wedding at a physically small space, it's okay to just invite me, but by the same token, don't be upset when I decline because you made your bed type of deal. It's also worth noting I had a similar constraint on my wedding but cut 2 family members to allow both he and his soon-to-be wife seats at my wedding. Context. I love me some context, OP. I am a government controls engineer working on a very expensive, to the tune of higher-ups giving updates to Congress, very time-consuming project currently. I'm not at the top of the chain, but I've been able to advance my career very quickly, so I am in a position of responsibility. I missed his bachelor party because I needed to travel for a work meeting. He is still very much the Chad bro, let's get drunk type, and I'm not anymore. I have a wife, wife. I have 2 small children who are the absolute most important thing to me. I don't respond to his texts nearly as often or as quickly, and I don't endlessly play video games with our old group like I used to. So I think it's fair for him to feel he's not as important, because while I love him, he also just isn't compared to my career, but most of all, family. Am I the asshole for saying I wouldn't go and now thinking I should take back my offer to go after having time to think about it? So I feel like there's not really any surprises here. Reddit, of course, voted not the asshole, and I agree. I mean, people change and grow apart, and there's no real escaping that, and it seems like that's what's happened here between OP and their college bestie. It sounds like the two of you have very different priorities and that this has already caused a little bit of conflict, and now it's definitely come to a head. I mean, it sucks that you RSVP'd first that you weren't going and then said that you were going, and now you want to back out and say that you're not going again. But it sounds like the only reason you agreed to go was because your bestie guilted and pressured you into changing your mind. So now that you want to go back to your original decision, I feel like that's kind of on them. There is an edit. I know I'm preachy, so I'll be brief. My wife and I are not attached at the hip. To clarify, weddings, funerals, graduations, work dinners, we go to together. Formal events. If it's a girls' night or boys' night level stuff, we have no problem being apart. I also did not send an RSVP. I let the automatic system do it for me. The website read RSVP here. No submission will be counted as will not attend at deadline. In my opinion, that reflects very poorly on me in an effort to be fair. And a final edit, I'm not going to his wedding and he's not going to mine. The friendship has been terminated, not for just this, but an accumulation of reasons. People ask why I waited to respond knowing it was wrong. I was weak, essentially, and events from our history made me procrastinate because I knew in any event it wouldn't be a good conversation. Not an excuse, and I know I messed up there. I think this was an everyone sucks here, even with all the not the assholes, and I was called on behaviors I have that aren't good that I now recognize and agree with. I mean, I don't personally think it was weak of you not to respond. It just seems like you knew what was coming and just wanted to procrastinate so you didn't have to deal with the conflict. And honestly, I think the outcome would have been pretty similar even if you had RSVP'd on time. You would have RSVP'd no, and then your bestie would have guilted and pressured you into changing your mind, and then you'd be in the exact same position you are now. Like, I guess I can agree with your personal vote of everyone sucks here, but I just feel like your friend sucks more. Next, we have, am I the asshole for refusing to listen to mother-in-law's speech on my wedding? So I hate speeches. I never understood the appeal. I think they are boring, exhausting, and very, very forced. But having said that, this is just my opinion, and I have never forced it on anyone. I have sat through many long, excoriating speeches without complaining like any other decent human being. When it was my turn to get married, however, I requested no speeches. We wrote that we love everyone and that we knew they loved us. So if you want to say anything, say it to us directly in private. My husband thought it was funny, but he knew my feelings about speeches. We had a small wedding with only loved ones, a weekend long. My husband loves games, so the wedding planner did a really great Taskmaster type game and everyone appreciated it. This sounds like a really fun wedding. Dinner came and mother-in-law stood up and started by saying, I know we are forbidden to make speeches by the bride, but this is my only son getting married, so I will say what I want to. Oh, do I have to keep reading? Because I already cannot handle this. I didn't hear the rest because I was seeing red. My sisters and bridesmaids were shocked. I pretended like she wasn't talking and continued my conversation with my girls. They did the same. My mother-in-law was furious, both sister-in-laws were furious, and my husband was very angry that it showed on his profile. He refused to look at me. The rest of the night was awkward. I bet it was. My husband's side sulking in their seats. I wanted to make sure it wasn't ruined for the rest of us, and we ended up having a blast. Next day, I spent it with my family and friends. My husband said I was very wrong in what I did. I couldn't force my mother-in-law to STFU, and he knew she wouldn't no matter how much we told her. I shouldn't have disrespected and humiliated her like this. Our marriage started on the wrong foot, it seems. Am I the asshole? P.S. Mother-in-law loves making speeches, sometimes 15 minutes long and not unusually mean speeches, disguised as humor that often isn't appreciated at all by the speak-e. Okay, OP. Firstly, I am sorry that your mother-in-law disrespected your wishes on your wedding day and that your husband took her side over yours. That does not sound like a fun time at all. Reddit voted that you are not the asshole in this situation, and I mostly agree. Like, obviously, your mother-in-law was out of line, but your response during her speech, it sounds like it was very awkward for just everyone there. And I feel like there may have been other ways to express your displeasure rather than just being outright rude. But that is just me. Everyone is different and everyone has different ways of dealing with situations like this. But also, afterwards, when you were making sure that the wedding wasn't ruined for the rest of you and having a blast while your mother-in-law and husband and that whole side of the family just sat and sulked, the way you've described it in your post almost makes it sound like to them, it might have felt like you were throwing your fun in their faces, kind of like a big F you. And if that's the case, it may have exacerbated the situation ever so slightly, but I could be reading this all wrong. And if that's the case, then I am so happy that you were able to move on and enjoy the rest of your wedding celebrations. Next, we have, am I the asshole for expecting my sister-in-law to still pay her share of the bachelorette party? I am getting married in a few weeks. Congratulations, OP. My bachelorette party is this weekend. We will be spending the weekend out at the wineries and other activities. My soon-to-be husband's younger sister is one of my bridesmaids. A few weeks ago, when we were discussing the bachelorette party, she informed us she wouldn't be coming on it. She gave no real reason other than she didn't know anyone very well and didn't want to take days off work. Pretty much, she just doesn't want to come. So can I just say, OP, I absolutely understand how this might have been hurtful and upsetting for you, but just to give an outsider's perspective, it sounds like your future sister-in-law has really good boundaries and I'm kind of jealous. Like, over the years, I've gotten better at saying no to things, but in this instance, I still would have felt the need to make up some kind of excuse. Like, sorry, that's my hair washing weekend. No, let's be real. I probably would have come up with a much better excuse than that because I would have spent like at least a whole torturous week procrastinating making that phone call and thinking of every probable and improbable way that that conversation could have possibly gone so that I was completely prepared. Okay, so I'm not that good at saying no. After everything was booked, it came to about $600 a person. Wow. My maid of honor sent my sister-in-law a Venmo request for her portion since she is still part of the wedding party. Sister-in-law sent a message to the group text confused as to why she would be expected to pay. We informed her that as part of the wedding party, it's expected to help pay for the bachelorette. She didn't have a real reason she couldn't come. She just didn't want to. That doesn't get her off the hook for the responsibilities she signed up for. I am sorry, OP, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, but I'm very quickly beginning to understand why your sister-in-law might not have wanted to come on this trip. Now that the trip is tomorrow, the other bridesmaids are pissed that they had to pull out money to cover sister-in-law's portion. I sent her a message explaining what comes along with being a bridesmaid and asking her to please send my maid of honor the money because she is putting a downer on the weekend and ruining it. I have not heard back and the bridesmaids are super pissed they are out of money. Okay, so Reddit voted you're the asshole on this one, and I must agree. As I said earlier, there are so many rules regarding weddings, and one of them is that the bridal party will usually pay the bride's way at the bachelorette celebrations. And I accept that. I think it is a nice way to celebrate the bride. I'm all for it. But in saying that, I do think that if you are going to strictly enforce this rule like OP and the rest of the bridal party are doing, then the cost of the celebrations needs to be reasonable and within everyone's means. And personally, I feel like $600 a head for a weekend of wineries and other activities is not reasonable. You have to take into account that usually the bridal party is already significantly out of pocket by the time of the bachelorette celebrations. Like, once you take into account the dress, the hair, the makeup, the nails, the shoes, and any potential whole travel or accommodation expenses. And they usually don't get any thanks for this either. They're expected to just be grateful that they made the cut onto the bridal party. And honestly, when you think of it that way, being a bridesmaid is a pretty thankless job. OP, if this weekend is what you want as your bachelorette do, then that is absolutely your choice and your prerogative, but it is also your sister-in-law's choice and prerogative to not attend. And now on to our next and final post. We have, am I the asshole for telling my sister I don't care how her wedding turns out? OP is a 29-year-old male and he says, my sister, 26-year-old female, has always been incredibly spoiled. It's always her way or the highway, so I knew that when she got engaged, she would be a handful. Her wedding is coming up in about a year and she has already started planning. Okay, I don't think planning a wedding a year in advance makes your sister that much of a handful, OP, but let's continue. She sat us all down, my mother, father, and my other sister, and told us what they had decided for the theme. Now, personally, I think it's a little tacky to put a theme on the wedding, but it's not my wedding, so I held my tongue. Her theme was nature, and this was applied to everything. She wanted a floral lace dress, succulents as favors, and for the ceremony to take place in a greenhouse. Again, tacky, but not my wedding, so I didn't say anything. The issue arose when it came time to talk about the reception venue. She said she wanted it to be outdoors in one of those huge event tents with windows so we could be in nature. My whole family hated this idea. An outdoor reception just seems very cheap and not at all classy. We suggested she go with something a little more classic, like an event venue, but she had her mind set. So maybe I'm alone here, but this wedding does not sound tacky to me at all. It sounds absolutely gorgeous. And since when are outdoor receptions cheap and not classy? I got really upset because the entire family was telling her they would prefer one thing and she was insisting she do another when she was literally the only person who wanted it. Okay, so OP, a little while back you said they had decided on this theme, presumably referring to your sister and her fiance, meaning that they had decided what they wanted to do for their wedding. And you and your family are getting annoyed that they're not changing their wedding plans to suit you, the people not getting married, whose wedding this is not. At first, I tried to go easy on her by telling her that themed weddings are just a fad, and if she commits to her theme so heavily, she'll look back on it in 20 years and cringe, and that it's better to choose something timeless, like a simpler dress and a hotel ballroom. I said she could definitely incorporate flowers into the centerpieces and decorations if she wanted, but to have the whole wedding centered around plants and flowers just seemed like too much. Never one to take advice, my sister just said that she's sorry we feel that way, but her and her fiance have wanted this for their wedding for years, and they spent a lot of time coming up with the details together, and they wanted their wedding to reflect their personalities and who they are as a couple, and she didn't think my timeless suggestions would be able to do that. Here's where I might be the asshole. I kind of let my frustration get the better of me and said, fine, I don't care if your wedding turns out to be tacky. I knew you were going to be an inflexible bridezilla anyway. I do think she was being too rigid and just thinking about what she would like instead of what her family and guests would prefer. But my parents say it's my sister's wedding and that it wasn't cool to say I didn't care. Am I the asshole? So sincerely, from both me and Reddit OP, yes, you are the asshole. It's pretty ironic to me that you started off by calling your sister a handful and spoiled, and then went on to write an entire post whining about how she won't change her wedding plans according to your whims and demands. And the theme sounds beautiful. Honestly, I could understand you giving like gentle nudges and suggestions if she wanted the theme to be like under the sea or like Twilight or something. I am so sorry if anyone had those themes for their wedding. It was probably amazing. But this theme sounds so lovely and I may low-key want an invite. Also, in the interest of being as blunt with you as you were with your sister, in my opinion, your suggestions were unoriginal and uninspiring. Sorry, not sorry. But that is where we are going to leave off today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I would love to hear your thoughts on these posts in the comments down below. After scrolling through these posts together, are we all just on board with cancelling weddings to avoid the drama. As usual, if you have any suggestions for any subreddits, websites, threads, apps that you would like to scroll through together, then absolutely send them my way. And if you are still here and not subscribed, then I would just love it if you did that so that you don't miss out on any future hangouts like this one, and so that you and me and Lily, who is snoring away, can be best friends forever and ever. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and me and Lily will be counting down the hours until we see you in the next one. Bye!